Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to get started in about a minute or so. We'll give everybody a little bit more time to get on here. But thank you for joining us this afternoon. All right, we're going to get started. I appreciate everybody joining this webinar and hearing a little bit more about the township's sort of efforts to engage on flex parking and the possibility of its removal. And my name is Alex Mcdonald. I'm the business administrator for the Township of Millburn. I'm just going to introduce a little bit about the project and some of the thoughts behind it, and then really wanted to just kind of open this up to the public that has joined us to hear from all of you and provide some feedback on this process. So as everyone is aware, or may be aware, there is the raised parking on Millburn Avenue between Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks, as well as Haagen-Dazs and Design Hub. This raised parking was installed back in 2016 and has been a pretty consistent sort of issue in terms of people's thought process on it, and how it relates to ease of parking, or how it's utilized, and various different things kind of consistently come up about flex parking. Back in 2018, the township attempted to go out to bid and bid for the removal of flex parking. However, one of the bids came back unresponsive, and another came back well over any of the estimates that we had. It has not been spoken about since then, but has now sort of been reinvigorated to just start the discussion again about those possibilities. And this would be a project in which the current raised parking where it's separated from the sidewalk by bollards would be returned to curb parking. We've had one information session that was probably a little bit more geared toward merchants and property owners down in the downtown area, and in particular that area. And this one has been sort of a wider cast net to the general public of Millburn visitors, things like that. And so really just wanting to hear from everyone about what their thoughts are on flex parking and its removal. Obviously, there's a lot to consider in a project like this. In its construction, when that construction would take place, how that construction would take place, the disruption that it might cause, the cost, all those different things. But really, we're kind of going through our information gathering at this point, and nothing in terms of the way that the township is approaching this from a specification standpoint is changing from 2018 to today, in that the removal of flex parking would be the removal of that concrete area to a traditional curb, resetting drainage, resetting manhole covers and things like that. It would not result in the return of the right-hand turn lane that was once on Millburn Avenue, but it would return back to traditional parking. And now, again, as I said, there's a lot to consider in this, and part of all of that is hearing from the public and what their thoughts are on that. So I'm not really going to talk to it much more. I'd like to just open it up and hear from everybody that's on this call, be able to, happy to answer any questions. or listen and write down those so that the committee, as they go through this decision-making process, can provide or be provided with as much information as possible. We are in the process of putting together another survey, a little bit more comprehensive, a little bit more less subjective, I think, and a little bit more to the point, so that we can hear from more and more people on it. But again, happy to answer any questions, happy to listen. But I will just say that as we go through this, I want to be clear that this is a conversation about flex parking, a conversation about the potential for its removal and what that means to the community and to the merchants and to everyone that might be involved. We should not sort of digress from that conversation. If we do, I'm going to ask you to stay on point and so that we can have a productive meeting here. So with that, I don't want to talk too much longer, but I do want to hear from everybody. So if anybody has anything to say regarding flex parking or their thoughts on construction or their thoughts on what the removal is or anything about the subject matter, please just raise your hand. I'll call on you and give you your time to speak, and we'll be writing everything down. We're also recording this session so that we can share this with the elected officials that will have to kind of go through this decision-making process. But again, anybody who has any comments or questions about this, please raise your hand and we'll let you speak. Yes, Fran.
Hi, Alex. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm just I usually these calls you can see other people who are on the call, but here I can only see you. Is that correct? Or
yeah, that is correct. So when we put out these information sessions, we do them as webinars for security purposes, only because we put them out to the general public, and you can have people kind of hop on and Zoom bomb them, and we definitely do not want that to happen. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just feel like it's weird to be addressing a group and you have no idea who's in the group.
Yeah.
Who you're talking to other than you. It's just
Understood.
a little strange.
Yeah. So look, and I can just tell you that I'm looking at the group, and these are all fellow residents. I recognize, probably 75 to 80% of the names, but we're happy to hear from you, Fran, and what your comments are and what your questions are and things like that. So.
All right. Well, I'll try to tell my little story as concisely as possible. That's a little hard for me, but I will try.
Okay.
So basically, I moved to Millburn as a young bride in 1983. And from 1983 to 2016, I never had one complaint to register with the town about anything that was going on. I was very happy with the way the town looked, the upkeep, snow removal, just about anything you could think of. I didn't even think that I didn't see any problems. I wasn't looking for any problems. I was just very content. So I don't think I developed a reputation as a complainer in this town. But 2016 definitely changed that, because at the time I was still commuting full-time to a job in the city. And the thing about being a full-time commuter is it's very hard to keep up with these kinds of meetings that you're having right here, or even township committee. You get home at 7 and you're tired. So, but when it came to, so I didn't know what was actually going on in the town. I saw there was construction when I was home on the weekend, but really I had no clue what was going on. I just didn't know. And that might be my bad, because I didn't go anywhere to try to figure out what was going on, because I always felt whatever happened in town was good. So I had no thoughts, right? Mm. So when the dust settled and I saw what had happened to Millburn Avenue, I have to say I had a physiological reaction. I felt like I was going into shock. I saw these raised sidewalks with these black rubber huge things, and cars desperately trying to park, parallel parking. It was almost like the parallel parking, devil had come to town to try to torture everybody because no one likes to parallel park. Everyone knows that. And now all of a sudden it was twice as hard to parallel park. And when you did your best, you were hanging at least one wheel off the sidewalk, which wasn't a sidewalk anymore. So those kind of things. And then when you would come into town from the high school direction, the town looked like it looked like so unkempt and messy with these cars hanging off all which way, every which way. It looked like, drunk people had parked on the street. I never
Right.
saw anything. I mean, if I didn't live in the town, I could laugh about it, but I realized that millions of dollars had been spent to get that effect of drunk drivers, and I was scared. So then I started to get involved, and that's when I met you and the township committee, and I started coming to all those meetings because I said, this is what I get for not paying attention. Something happened and I had no say in the matter. So I am delighted that I have say in the matter here today. And I'm saying how I feel about it. It looks horrendous. So I think everybody that serves on the township committee knows that I voted for them. I worked pretty hard for some of the people. I really worked hard to get them elected because they said that they would do something about the flex parking, and I believed them. So I understand that there's going to be a huge cost to this, which is sad because there was a huge cost of making it this way, and now we have to pay to unmake it. But I think what's underlined it even more is this idea of a possible downtown redevelopment that we're all looking at. And I went to all those meetings as well with Klein and Perkins and those other sidebar meetings. We want to make our town look better. I don't know how many millions of dollars we can spend on this. I don't know the budget. However, I think before we start doing any major changes in town, we have to look at the problems that already exist and try to mitigate them before we start some new project. So that's a new added view that I have since the redevelopment became a thing.
Right.
And so what I'd like to say is, since I live in for those of you who know where I live, but it's right across from Taylor Park near the Co-op Nursery. So I have to go off Millburn Avenue, make a right on Main, go down and make the left on Ridgewood constantly. And getting rid of that right-hand turn with that big bump out it holds traffic up. So I don't often come into town anymore. I'll go around the back way to save myself the backup. And now, of course, Main Street's going to be closed for a while. That means I'm never going to go that direction, even without the bump outs. So so it's just gotten much harder to drive around town. The traffic has increased on my street, also because of the mess in town. It's also increased the traffic on my street on Ridgewood going into South Mountain neighborhood. So that's it. So I'm completely for fixing those streets before we spend a penny on a redevelopment. And in fact, fixing them would be part of the redevelopment in my mind.
Right. Okay.
And that's it. So thank you for giving me probably a lot of time here. I wasn't
Yeah.
talking myself, but
Yeah, no worries, Fran, and I appreciate your comments and sharing with us. And again, like I said, we're taking this information down and also recording this so that we can use this information going forward. So appreciate your comments.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Marilee?
Hey, Alex, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. My story's similar to Fran's, although I lived in town longer, been here for most of the time since 1958. Same thing, didn't really get involved in local politics much. And then 5 years ago, got involved with a bang due to complete streets and the mess that flex parking created. And like Fran, I have been an outspoken supporter of any of the candidates that have voted, that have been campaigning to get rid of complete streets. I also served on the PACTS committee where we made a recommendation, various recommendations. So I am absolutely in support of removing flex parking. I think it's made a mess of town. I also would like to see other things done, like reopening the one lane in front of Spring Street and also the right turn onto Main. But the flex parking is an experiment that just did not work. Most people that I talk to in town, I'm in the South Mountain section right around the corner from Fran. Anybody that I talk to hates it. And it creates a lot of traffic going through the South Mountain section to cut off Millburn Avenue. So resounding vote here to get rid of it.
Okay.
Thanks for listening, and I appreciate that you're having these information sessions.
Yeah, thanks, Marilyn. Appreciate your comments. Okay. Again, and really appreciate everybody's comments, and we'll continue to get through the list of participants here, and certainly if anybody has any thoughts on timing, construction mitigation, things like that, always helpful in these settings as well, to hear on those things, especially if you're in favor of the removal of flex parking. But I'm going to keep going on down the list here. But appreciate everybody's comments. Ileana?
Hi, Alex. How are you?
Hey, Ileana.
So I have to say that whereas when I first saw the flex parking, I was wondering what that was all about, and I had no idea that it was actually supposed to be for parking. I have no issue with parking on the flex parking, and those spaces are always completely taken. So I think there's a lot of people who don't have a hard time parking on the flex parking. And whereas I don't think it's ideal, it's there. And honestly, we paid for it once, and I'm just curious to find out how we would pay to get rid of it, because honestly, I don't want to pay for it again, to be honest.
Yeah. No,
So,
I'll happily answer that question when you're done. Yeah.
When before Complete Streets happened, I remember at one of the meetings, I asked the then mayor how this whole big project was getting funded. And he said, oh, we have a grant. Well, I then found out there was no such grant. There was monies raised in the town. Mm-hmm. So I just curious to find out again, what's happening now in terms of funding this. And honestly, if it's going to cost us, money that we have to, have our taxes raised again, I don't think it's worth it.
Okay. Thank you, Ileana. I appreciate your comments. So Ileana had brought up the question of funding, and so at this point, I think there's several ways that the township could go about this, but the most straightforward and sort of, I think the one that I can certainly answer at this point would be that the funds would be raised from our capital budget and as a capital expenditure, but and certainly the impact of that or non-impact of that, which is also a possibility, would be communicated as we go through this process. So. But at this point, I don't think I could speak to any sort of grant or outside funding that would be available. But that's also not to say that there's not that possibility. But I would not bank on that possibility. All right, Leah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. It is a little weird as the first, I think her name was Fran, said, not knowing who you're speaking to. I've lived in town 20 years. I despise the flex parking. I think it was pushed through hastily. And if it was going to be done, I think if the poles were moved and if other things were done, maybe it would have been a little better received. So yeah, nobody wants to spend money to fix mistakes, and nobody likes to admit they made a mistake, but I am for removing it. I just think it's a disaster. It always looks dirty. it's confusing to people from out of town. However, my only hesitation is I feel like it shouldn't be repaired or removed unless the one lane in front of Wells Fargo and by Clemenza's is restored to 2 lanes, because I don't think people are going to feel satisfied that anything was really accomplished. Yes, that will have been removed, but the whole traffic issue is also, to me, part of the issue with the flex parking. So I would hesitate to be for it unless everything is repaired. And it would be great to also have that right turn lane restored, but that may be a bit too much. I'm not sure of the cost of any of these things. So anyway, that is my 2 cents. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Leah. Appreciate your comments. And so I think, if I got from that is something more along something involving a more comprehensive plan. And so I appreciate your comments there, Leah. Have CBH. Can you just identify yourself?
Alex, it's Carrie.
Oh, all right, great. Hey, Carrie.
Hello, Alex. Sorry. Alex, just a question, not to make this a dialogue. I'm not sure that everybody, at least just an idea, how many people are on the call?
Yeah, there's 24 people on the call right now.
Do you think you were just beginning as town administrator in July 1st of 2016 when this all came about? Neither,
correct.
Not even I fully, but I'm not even sure the mayor at the time, certainly another councilwoman has acknowledged. Do people really understand what flex parking was designed for? Explain.
I mean, look, we are pretty far removed from that too, from 2016 when, or even prior to that, if, when it was explained or even discussed, if it were discussed. So, so I would say that at this point, it probably does bear repeating, if that's what you're asking, Carrie.
Either yourself or myself.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
I'm happy to explain it. Yeah. Flex parking, I think and I think somebody had called it, an experiment, but, it was a newer idea proposed that would allow for parking to be utilized both as parking and as additional sidewalk space or restaurant space or outdoor seating or, or during parades, it could be utilized. And so, they had envisioned it in this area, I guess, and that's why it was installed there. But that was the crux of it, was that it was a flexible space, which is why it's called flex parking. However, I think that there could obviously be some comments and commentary on the use of that flexibility in and of itself.
Explain the bollards. I think you left that out.
Yeah, and so the bollards are there that can be pushed out toward the street, as well as in some cases they've been removed if necessary, replaced by other things. But the idea was to be able to push the bollards out and bring them back in as necessary.
And just one more, if you would question the sidewalks, in addition to the flex parking from, let's say, from the movie theater to Main Street, sidewalks have been pushed out significantly as you get beyond my building to the curb, where Schultz and Starbucks are. The sidewalks are not only wider, but the flex is wider. Yeah,
it flares quite a bit from the movie theater to Main Street, and that's as a result of eliminating that right-hand turn lane and creating the bump out on the design hub corner.
My point, the sidewalks are wider as well. We have wider space and mostly all small storefronts. We have the movie theater. We have Flywheel, which is one single space, but pretty much every other space is a small little space. So having met and talked with Arterial and the like, they basically turned their back on these 2 blocks and didn't realize we didn't necessarily, with small storefronts, need larger space to be flex, just for special events. But again, I think you'll confirm special events, we haven't made use of pushing the bollards out. We've had the street fairs in the street, and sort of the sidewalk is sort of there, or the flex has been there. We've left the bollards for the most part in place and have not made use of it in the 4+ years, for the most part.
Yeah, I think it's a fair statement.
Okay. Let me talk a little bit. History. History does matter. This was rushed through. It was designed. It was an experiment. I myself and other people were very much against the rushed nature of this as Tim Gordon was leaving, Alex, and when you were starting. I don't think it was anybody's intent to do anything but good things, but it was rushed too quickly, and it wasn't reviewed by all the various people on this call and many others in professional community, real estate community, real estate brokers, stores, traffic, and the like. We've had a lot of issues and other things that you and I can talk about privately that are not part of this. So to just stay on point. So we went through what it was meant for. It was also advertised complete streets, as which flex parking came as a result of, to be a better, safe passage through. We changed the traffic lights, among other things. We won't comment, on those things today. That's not what it's about. But we're supposed to have a bike lane, which we don't have as a result of the raised, elevated concrete, which also has a rounded curb. Right, it's too narrow for parking spaces. There is no curb, but we don't have a bike lane. It's almost impossible to ride a bicycle into the town with that raised, elevated parking. The concrete is dirty. The rounded curb is hard to plow. It's hard to get out of your car. It's hard to parallel park. And to anyone who wishes to believe that people are parallel parking and the parking is used, come see me. There's cameras on the corner. We don't sit there and watch, but if you want to see how few people parallel park, it's really pull in out, and it's very little used, either by suggestion of the amount of money going into meters, by the amount of in and out. It's not striped. It was striped for a brief period of time after its initial installation. Not only dirty, but if anyone wants at 8 o'clock in the morning, we're not out, I'll blow the sidewalks with a leaf blower because the street is on the sidewalks. There's no curb. The dirt, the fumes, which become solid, are all where you're walking and eating your dog and your kids. The curb serves a purpose. We have another issue there, which Alex knows. The county plows the asphalt. The Millburn takes care of the concrete. It's done at 2 different times. It's 2 different types of salt. It's 2 different types of plow. And again, you have that elevated, raised, mounded area. The parking, as I said, was narrow. The bollards are mostly there. Alex, you can confirm after. I think about 1/3 are gone. I think it's been acknowledged tacitly that they don't work. Many cars have been damaged. They don't work. Alex has, and with his team, DPW, tried putting planters and other things, and where there's light poles, other things. You walk down the street, you'll see about 1/3 of the bollards are gone. Some of them have been destroyed. Some of them have been hit. The concept doesn't work, again, primarily because we don't parallel park, and others have commented about people pulling in and cars sticking out, into the street, and it just doesn't look nice as you're driving into town that you see these parked SUVs, standing taller than you are. To the concrete, Alex, I've looked at the plans. I own, I have 6 stores. I've got a bunch of offices upstairs. I don't speak for the town. I can only speak for my building. I'll speak. I don't know if Robert Schultz is on, but he asked me to speak for him. John Rutter, who's on the next block. I believe the Talco family has a representative on the call. I won't speak for them, but we all empirically can tell what interest and what rents and what national tenants and what real estate brokers from the national companies who even bring smaller tenants to spaces that are avoiding Millburn like the plague. The removal of the concrete is just a starting point, and nobody's suggesting anyone's taxes should be higher. We should have higher ratables, whether it's through modest revitalization, moving to DPW. This is a start. This is the face, of the downtown. We took out Belgian block curb. We put in, concrete. We took out lots of trees from Town Hall all the way down to the corner. There used to be a lot of trees in that section of road. If anyone doesn't, believe, I certainly have, photos of that as well. This can be done quickly. As many of you know, I was arrested protecting my building from, literally bouncing. It's a 100-plus-year-old building. I stood in the way. I heard someone else emerge comment that they're concerned about their store suffering damage. This is the street only. This is from the bollards out into the street. It'll be saw cut. It'll come out quickly. It will not take long. It's not going to be very costly. No one wants to spend money twice. but just to remind those on the call, $2 million of this project didn't get spent. On the other hand, it got overspent. The project was well over budget. The budget was 8 million, and then it was larger than 8 million. 6 million was spent, and it was supposed to do all of Millburn Avenue, all the way to PNC Advisors, and all the way back down to Essex Street and back down to the police station fire. It was going to be a $25 million project. So we are well over budget. But on the other hand, we didn't spend $2 million of it because a certain township committee voted to take away those funds before this current township committee could make use of those funds. That's a different story. The project is just from the Balsite pavers out. It's not about removing light poles at this time. Some don't like myself. It's not about bringing the 3 left-hand turns back. That could be at some later date. Yeah, the slip lane at Wells Fargo should occur, the right-hand turn on Spring. I leave that to the township committee and Alex to budget. Our taxes, at least municipal, I believe have been stable, gone down each of the last 2 years. How the township committee has done that through these times is a great feat and a great accomplishment. And hopefully with new ratables and efficiencies, which I know Alex and the town are talking to other towns about, we hopefully will even do better going forward. Just give me another minute and I'll be done. I think most, if not all, the commercial property owners through the town, and we help pay, the taxes, tended to reimburse us in many cases for the taxes. I have offices upstairs, as many other buildings. It's really the people on the street that come out and complain. The office people, they leave. The offices are very vacant throughout the town. I've got several residents upstairs as offices who for 20 years have wanted the town to be better and to be improved. And I'm speaking for them, and they've asked me to just to convey those thoughts that the concrete is not the cure-all, but it's a start. Last, Perkins Eastman, we have a vision plan which is much bigger than a few $100,000 to remove the concrete, but it's to bring back circulation. It's to bring our park, our Taylor Park, more into the downtown. It's to make parking easier. It's to perhaps look at, and we are looking at, two-way traffic into the town, but no, we're not looking to create more traffic. We're looking to create less traffic. We're creating hopefully a scenario and a situation where we don't stay as a transient downtown, where people are getting off 2478 and cutting through from Morris Avenue to get to Vauxhall Road. That's a whole lot of the traffic that comes into town. Yes, we need to be very concerned about emergency vehicles and fire in the schools. So those are paramount. We became Millburn, Saks and Lord and Taylor back in the 50s for a reason. It's the crossroads. We've lost, well, we still are a crossroads. We've lost the ability for people to want to stop. Department stores are gone. The world has changed. Economy has changed. Downtowns have changed. We haven't changed for 40 years. I'm here 28 years. It's the same thing over again and over again. I helped start the SID, which was very successful for the first 20 years, but unfortunately 3 township committees over that period of time didn't listen to try to help us to compete with other downtowns, with Route 22 and Route 10. And we can't compete with the internet, but we can be different. We have to cause people to, come downtown. And the only way to do that is to make ourselves improve. And this is a starting point. And I have, I make a promise to any of those and all. It will be better. It will park better. It will look better. We'll have more trees. I'll leave it to the township committee and Alex as to budget. It will be a minor inconvenience. I don't believe it'll be more than a 3-4 week project. If the township committee so chooses to do it at night or off hours, even the better for that. But we will get this done. We'll get it done quickly. And I believe you will see real estate people and other stores and better quality stores want to come into the town and help us to do East Millburn Avenue. Let's just say this is a starting point, to be determined what's going to happen with the rest of town. But this is just the start. Thank you.
All right.
Alex.
Great. Appreciate it, Carrie. Appreciate your input and your comments. Okay. Michael Talco. Hello, Michael. You're on.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. We had a little power outage here. Number one, I want to say thank you for inviting me to these meetings. This is my first meeting with the city of Millburn. I grew up in Millburn. My family has owned property in Millburn and elsewhere for generations. I just want to pick up something that Carrie said. He talked about two things. From my world, I'm a real estate attorney. We invest in cities. And there's always one common element that makes a city or a town or municipality successful. And that's if it creates a village. When these trees were taken out, when this flex parking was put in, somehow that was lost. And picking up something Carrie Heller said, if you speak to the brokerage community, Marcus and Millichap, any of the commercial brokerage firms, they don't have a buy rating for Millburn. They have an avoid rating. They have an avoid rating because that village doesn't exist. So any of the investment community in the state of New Jersey shies away from Millburn. They go elsewhere. I know that Carrie has investments elsewhere. We do. And I can tell you that those investments tend to do better because there is more of a village. There's more excitement. There's more of a vibe, an essence. And it's very important to me that we bring that back. As I've taken over at the helm of my family's business, I spend hours each week speaking to tenants who implore me, please, let's do away with the flex parking. That's the source of our problem. Let's do things to re-engage with and make downtown the heart of the city. So that's what I have to say. Thank you. I'd like to become more involved and look forward to meeting everybody.
Great. Thank you, Mike.
Pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Marilee, I'll put you on again. If you could just keep your comments brief, appreciate it.
Hi, Alex. Yeah, I'll keep it brief.
Sure.
I just wanted to make a comment about the timing that I think it was two years ago. We put out a bid to get this done over the summer, thinking traffic would be lighter.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad idea considering we're in April. I do recall that the proposal that was published was very restrictive. And I remember thinking at the time, why would anybody bid on that? Because there's no way they could meet those criteria. But so I think that we don't want to make it too tight that no one's going to bid on it if we're going to do this. But if it could be done in August, that would be, or whatever, the summertime, that would be great. But I don't think we should force the issue because right now traffic is lighter than normal anyway. It's coming back from COVID, but it's still not back 100%. So that's all.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. You're right. I mean, the bids would be somewhat restrictive to narrow in on a time frame that we're looking for. But certainly the less restrictive you are in the bidding process, the more bids you'll get, the more competition you get, things like that. But we do want to be cognizant of all those factors that I said at the beginning of this meeting, which will play into this. And certainly, what you can do in the bidding process and the local public contracts process is you can have alternates that will allow you to sort of see what might work best, not only from a operations standpoint, but from a financial standpoint. If you do it at night, or if you do it off peak hours, or things like that, or if you have them do it sections at a time, or whatever it might be, you can certainly write multiple alternates into a bid to get a feel for all of that. So, is there anyone else that would like to make a comment? I do not have anyone more here. All right, there we go. Alyssa?
Oh, hi, Alex.
How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for taking me my comment.
Sure.
I'm in full support. I've always hated the flex parking from the beginning. It's really been a shame because so many people have run on this platform and we're still pulling teeth to try to remove this. It's just one of those things. I hope we do it to benefit, in the evening, the store, so they get hurt as little as possible. But the parking is it's just horrific. It's discriminatory towards anybody who is physically disabled. They can't get out of their car. I've seen people fall. I believe somebody even broke their leg on it. So many cars have been damaged. The bollards are not car rated. In other words, if a car hits the bollard, it will go through the bollard and hit the person on the other side. There's just so many things wrong with it. I really hope we can push through and get this done. I would like to see it done this summer. I would have liked to see it done last summer. I think it's like money is a component, but common sense is even a bigger component. This is really hurting the flow of town. And there's a lack of police presence as well. So I think, coupled with all the suggestions that have been happening with the new vision plan, I'm in complete support of it. I'm sorry for the people who aren't, but Millburn is, I said this once at the meeting, but I was in Israel 2 summers ago, and I met somebody on the beach. And the first thing the person said to me was, "You're from Millburn? What the F did they do to that downtown? I won't even go get my hair cut there anymore." I mean, that's like the attitude people have toward Millburn. They just don't even know what happened. So I'd love to get people back. So I'm in full support of lifting this flex parking.
All right, great. Thank you, Alyssa. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else wish to say something? Okay. So as I stated earlier, we are continuing this discussion and continuing to work through this process, the Township Committee and the staff here in Millburn. We are developing a survey that will be going out probably by the end of, probably later on this evening, actually be pushed out via Swift Reach. So if you're signed up for that, you will receive it. If not, please go to the township website and sign up for Swift Reach. It's a great way to receive communication from us and stay involved and stay informed. There are a lot of different ways to do that, as well as we continue to work through this process and many other processes with the township, including elements of the downtown area vision plan and different things like that. So please sign up with Swift Reach, follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And we push out a lot of information. Our website is updated a lot as well. And we just encourage everybody to follow whatever medium you feel most comfortable with, so that you're getting that information. We will continue this conversation. I truly appreciate everybody being on this call and on this Zoom call. And we will we'll continue to push out any pertinent information to the public. And certainly if you have any questions, you can always, or comments, you can always put those to us at letusknow@millburntwp.org. Again, that's letusknow@millburntwp.org. If you have any questions or comments, I really appreciate the community engagement and participation here. And I hope everybody has a great evening. All right. Thank you so much. Take care.